And this is my email address. Feel free, okay? If you got any questions for me, shoot. Send them off to me, okay? And I know we're going to go over a lot of things here, but if you need, if you're interested in sort of a more granular view of the world from politics, let me know. So I know that, you got a question? All right.
With all the violence around the country at schools, do you think it would be a good thing to have more of a police presence in and around our schools?
It's an interesting question. When I was here, there wasn't a police presence that I can remember, which is scary in the sense where there is now. I think that's really based on need. If you're not comfortable and your classmates aren't comfortable feeling safe in the school, then I would say the answer to that is yes. If you are comfortable, I'm not worried about sort of the U.S. trends. The good thing about Stanford is that we are a reasonably safe place to live. Our crime statistics aren't something that are off the charts. So I would say it's really up to you. I mean, if you guys feel that it's something that I don't feel safe at school because of a threat of violence, then certainly we would need to discuss that. What do you think of that? I mean, back to you. Do you feel, or I guess to everybody, I mean, what's the feeling of safety here at the school? Everybody gets quiet.
Be honest.
Raise your hand. You feel safe at school?
Yes.
Not feel safe? Couple? Okay. So, that's generally what I was looking for. So 90, 85% feeling pretty comfortable with the level of security we have today. I know that these things are being discussed from the new high school perspective. Safety, I think, is everybody's first priority, honestly, probably more so than education at this point. Making sure that everybody feels safe, that you're locked in, people are locked out. We need to make sure there's a safe environment for you guys.
Why did you want to be mayor?
Why did I want to be mayor? That's a good question. Yeah. I'm pretty vested in the community. I grew up here. I moved away. I came back. Scary thing about moving away, particularly I was gone for probably 15 years or so. It didn't look the same when I got back. It looked a little worse. Okay, so some places you leave and you go, wow, I don't even recognize this place because of this new mall or this new shopping situation or 3 new car dealerships. Stanford looks different because it hasn't really grown at all. It looks a little beat down. I got involved because I just want to see the urgency. We need to do something fairly quickly. I want to make sure that I can at least spread that message. It's not all up to me. I work with a city council of people and a whole organization to help drive new development. But I got involved because I want to see better things for Stanford, honestly. I think we deserve it. I think it's been a long time in the making. And if I can help, great. I'm going to do my best to help. That's why I got involved.
What powers do you have?
X-ray vision, just one top. The role of mayor is primarily ceremonial, if you will. I come, I talk to folks like you. I represent, Stanford and sort of to the outside world. Actual power, I preside over the city council meetings, things of that nature. I won't bore you with all the.
Do you like veto stuff?
Do I like to veto stuff?
Do you do that?
Do I have veto power?
Yeah.
No. It's still it's a majority vote. There's 7 counselors. I make up one of those 7. That said, though, there's an indirect power, if you will, that I can help represent Stanford to folks like you, and at least share my view of what Stanford is. So some of it is indirect, some of it is direct. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a question over here.
How do you plan to accomplish your goals as mayor?
Sit down.
Okay.
Well, some of my goals are to attract and retain young people. So hopefully I started that today. We need to get our taxes under control. Budget season's coming right up, so I haven't even started the job actually yet. But and we need to drive economic development. My goals are going to be a very slow road. I mean, this is a 3-year term. Most of what I'm trying to achieve, I probably won't ever see. Okay, this is a very long-term perspective, but my goal is really is to make us, to put us on that course. You know, it's like, imagine city government is just a big boat, a big steamship that takes a long time to turn. And it really is, from that analogy, it's pretty true. It takes a long time to sort of change directions. So my hope is that I can stay focused on the larger issues and not get sort of dragged down into the quagmire of the daily operation, if you will, and keep the road at the high level. So, did I answer your question? I don't know if that addressed it fully, but I'm sure we'll come back. Yes?
How do you feel about those orange trash bags? That we-
What I think about the orange trash bags? Do I like paying for the orange trash bags? Really, not really. You know, what I think of them though is, I view the trash situation as a symptom of the disease, not in itself. So meaning, the reason we need orange trash bags, for beyond recycling is, you know, obviously great. We got to continue to recycle, but some of it comes down to money, right? So we have a very expensive operation to run. We're low on revenue, funds to fund our organization. So that's one way to generate income to the city, okay? So if you took the orange trash bags away right now, you would increase taxes almost immediately. I mean, that money for the orange trash bags is somewhat gone. Do I wish there could have been a yes or no vote as part of the trash? I don't know how much you followed that, but basically you had one trash plan or another trash plan to choose from, or your parents did, or your guardians or whoever you're living with. I would have liked to have seen, you know, a none of the above clause, because I still think pay-as-you-throw would have passed, and we'd probably be done talking about it. So people by nature like to have a choice in their lives and like to be engaged in that process. I'm not sure exactly that's what happened. You know that? Hogging all the questions over here. What's going on?
No, I'm supposed to stay around.
What's your name, by the way?
Jake.
Jake. All right, Jake.
Yeah.
Shoot.
What is your favorite thing about our city?
Stealing everyone's questions? Is that what's going on? All right. It's hard to say. You know, it's easy to say the people. You know, that's sort of the politically correct answer to say, oh, I love the people. People are great, you know, but for me, Sanford has a feeling of home to me that probably nowhere else does. I moved to Merrimack, New Hampshire 15 years ago, and it could have been anywhere. I didn't have any sort of affiliation with the place. I didn't feel that was my home. You know, Sanford is definitely my home. I'm from here, I live here, it's in my blood. I know what people from Sanford are like. I know what to do, where to go, where to avoid, you know, all the above. So for me, it's about being comfortable. It's about being the feeling of a familiarity of Sanford. It has its challenges, it has its scars, it's got all those things, but you know, for me, it's all the above. Sometimes you need to have some bad things to recognize the good things. So, hold on, I'm gonna mix it up. Way in the back. Yeah.
How do you feel about the recent protests at the school? Could you give us
So the question, I think, was the elimination of sports?
Yes.
Yeah. That was, I didn't like that. You know, I come from a sports family. I played sports. I wasn't a big advocate for the cuts. I understood why they had to happen. You know, for every sports program you cut, you save a teacher's job, essentially. So there's decisions that need to be made. Some very difficult decisions, actually. You know, my hope is that we can get to a point really quickly that these sports programs come back. You know, I think that particularly the junior high level, they got hit pretty good. A lot of the junior high sports got eliminated. And I think in junior high, maybe even more so than high school, you're still looking for your identity, what you want to do in your life. For a lot of these kids, that's sports. And a lot of kids play sports for the first time in junior high. So, you know, they may not have been involved with SSYA or any kind of travel leagues or whatever. So I'd like to give those opportunities back to those kids if I can somehow influence them. So just so you know, the city budget is generally managed by the city. The school budget is managed by the school. And those decisions typically happen in you know, differently. So the school committee and the superintendent and those folks make those decisions and present them to the city council for approval. So I can't personally, ask the school, hey, can you put these programs back? I don't have any kind of power along those lines. So, yeah.
How do you think we can make use of the mills better than we are right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I go back and forth with those mills. It's a lot of space. It could probably house half the town. So if we turn all of them into residential units and apartments, I'm not sure that they're ever really going to be filled. So we need to, some of the really bad ones probably need to come down. Some of the ones that are manageable as far as can be refurbished, can be fixed up. I'd like to see some kind of mix of commercial businesses, probably more commercial than residential in most of them, because if you really take a drive around there, you realize how many people actually worked in those mills back in the day. I mean, it's thousands, right? So short of having some really reasonably sized employers fill some of those massive spots, I think some of those buildings would probably be better served on the ground. That said, I like the idea of maybe having some arts lofts, some artistic loft building or spaces in there that you could rent, for example. You see that in bigger cities that have those kind of opportunities for artists and for, people want to do sculpture and different things where you go into those buildings and the ceilings are twice this tall and, there's plenty of space so you can really get creative as far as what you can do with your space. So it's going to be an evolution. I like the fact that we fixed up that current one. That looks great. Whether that's the model moving forward, I think it is to some extent. I think it's moderation in those mills.
What is the first thing you plan to do as mayor to better Sanford?
It's a better Sanford. The thing I've been talking about the most, and I haven't talked about it publicly, I don't know when this is going to air, but hopefully I'll have some traction before this happens. I'd like to start an incubator for young entrepreneurs to bring their ideas to light. And that's not only young entrepreneurs. We need to drive businesses into town, right? So one way to do that is to develop sort of a support group. And this happens in Portland, and Portsmouth, and Boston. There's no reason why we can't do it right here in Sanford, where we gather some like-minded business people and start talking about what businesses do people want to start here in Sanford? How do we help them? Are there mentors that have done this thing 100 times that can help a new person coming along like yourselves to start your new business? Many of our problems stem from our lack of economic development. So the high taxes, the pay-as-you-throw, the condition of the roads, those again are symptoms of a larger problem. And that problem to me is the lack of commercial businesses that we have in town. So the more businesses you have in town, the more taxes they pay, the more money we have to invest in roads and mills and things of that nature. So it's a whole connected thing. Do you have a question?
One can assume that being you come from a business and marketing background that you're right-leaning, but you know what they say about assumptions. So what are your political views? Do you think you're more right-leaning or left-leaning?
I could tell you that I've voted for every different party in the last 15 years, let's say. I think at this point I'm leaning towards being independent, only because I say it this way: I'm socially moderate, I'm fiscally conservative. I don't like to get caught up in the partisanship of politics right now. I think to me one of the biggest issues we have in our lives is the partisan nonsense that goes on at the federal level, but also you see it at the state level a lot, right? So, people not getting along only because of their political views. So for me, particularly in Maine and in Sanford, we don't have any time to get caught up in that. And I appreciate your question. I've gotten that a few times, but I'm a registered independent, if that gives you any sense. So.
What issues would you like to see personally resolved in the city?
Personally resolved. I'd like to see the addition of a pre-K program. If your group doesn't finish high school, it creates a huge burden on the city. Okay, so if you're not engaged in school by grade 2, 3, your chances of you finishing aren't very good, okay? I want to make sure that all the kids coming into our school system are prepared mentally, academically. I want to get some basis at the really young level, the pre-K, to arm them with the tools that they need to compete in school, okay? Other than that, you know what I want to see? You know that new park by the mill? I want to see a bandstand there. I want to have a summer concert series in that park. And I want you guys to go down and enjoy a coffee or whatever and go see concerts in the late afternoon in the summertime. I want to see amenities like that other cities have, okay? So for me, there's little things like the bandstand, and there's bigger things like we need to change our demographic mix. We need more people living here that have graduated from high school and college.
Many of these young adults are going to be looking for jobs in the next years. How would you like to improve their chances of getting jobs?
How would I like to improve them? I want to see you do well, find opportunities. I think the thing like the extended learning opportunities are great. I just heard a bunch of kids leave Stanford High School, go work essentially with something they're interested in, and decide whether that was for them or not. The answer to that question is, you tell me what you need. Do you know what I'm saying? So I want to arm you, but I don't pretend as a businessman and mayor-elect to understand what a person who's 15, 16, 17, 18 is going to need to be equipped. You need a sound education. You need to be involved as many groups as you can. Do well. Be a reasonable human being. All those things. But let me throw it back to you. What do you think the answer to that question is?
Well, personally, I already have 2 jobs. I'm a senior.
Yeah.
But I don't see that many opportunities or many businesses that can hire younger individuals like that when it's time for them to get a job.
You mean during high school or after high school?
During high school.
During, okay. Does anybody commute down to the beach for work, like in the summer? Anybody doing that? Okay.
What is that like? Like lifeguard or something?
No. Those are the, what's that? Okay. So, let me ask you that question. So, did you ever look at the beach for opportunities?
No, I found 2 jobs right here in Stanford.
Okay.
But both of those were manual.
Okay.
Yeah, other opportunities, many other ones, and it's very difficult to find a job.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's why I asked you about the beach, right? So, back in 1988, most people drove to Wells for their summer employment, and it was good pay, hard work, long hours kind of work, working in restaurants and motels, and I assume those jobs are still out there. But you're right. In town, I think it's probably pretty limited, unless you're connected to some program already, a sports program where you can help the coaches, whatever. There's not a lot of opportunities. And again, back in 1988, you could work for Vichy in the summertime, putting together widgets, making really good money in South Sanford. So we need to change that mix for sure. It's a great question. Thank you. All right. Let's see. We'll start at the left. We'll go this one.
If you could snap your fingers and change anything in our city, what would it be?
Gosh. I'd like to have a big employer flying things in and out of that airport. So I'd like to have a logistics company, somebody that's using the airport to ship freight in and out, and employing then thousands of people in some, fairly large distribution style company. Because something like that would allow retail, car dealerships, restaurants, Forever 21s, a bandstand, all the things, French horn that I know your principal's been after for years. We need that kind of base here. So big, stable employer typically then allows other employers around it to survive.
Okay.
Jake, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think Stanford needs to offer kids more to do? If so, what types of things do you think should be offered, like a roller skating rink, arcade, or 2100 dance club, or summer adventures?
I don't know. People still roller skate? I don't, is that something people do? Okay, wow. It went away, it's come back. You go roller skating?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Every weekend, right?
I don't know the backward skate.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I think there's two parts to the question. There's enabling and then there's executing, right? So do I want to enable you guys have more activities? Yes. Meaning, do I want to reduce obstacles to things like roller skating rinks and dance clubs and that sort of thing? If that's what you're interested in, that's great. But I don't see it as the city's responsibility, though, to create those things, right? So some of that's going to be created by the private market, meaning if there's a person in town that thinks a roller skating rink is a viable business entity, great, we'll go for it, and we'll remove any obstacles to their business idea. But you know, a lot of what's going to drive your entertainment is by demands of you, right? So I can't up here as a 43-year-old person say, I think you're going to like square dancing. I'm going to open a square dancing business. Like, you know what I mean? So you got to tell us what you want. You got to tell your parents what you want. You got to tell business owners what you want. You know, you are the youth economy. As much as our future is with me and different people, it's with you, right? So take some control, organize. You know, explain to us what you'd like to see. And I know it doesn't really answer your question, but you know, the city government only sort of the bounds of it are so big, right? It's only, you know, I don't want to overstep my bounds, I guess is the answer to your question. So do I want to see those things? Yes, I do. I think it's very little to do for anybody who's, let's say, 15 up through 30. The 25-year-olds have nothing to do in Sanford either, beyond what they create for themselves. So we need to develop an infrastructure that supports our youth a little better than we have. Hold on, there's other questions. Anybody else? How about you? You going? I'm sorry, I'll be back. How can I help lower the tax rate in the city? Well, again, this is a collective process, right? So there's and I won't bore you with all the details, there's a budget process where the city and the school create their own budget. And sometimes it goes up, sometimes it stays the same, sometimes it goes down. You know, we've had a couple of years of really strong tax increases in Sanford. My hope is that the city and school are going to arrive at a 0% increase. I don't know if that would be reasonable or not, but that's my hope. You know, we need to get our taxes under control. Otherwise, I think the people that we don't want to leave will eventually leave. So it's a problem of sometimes the more money you raise, the less money you make. I know that seems weird, but the less money people then have to spend in your business community on food and clothes and different things and Xboxes and this and that. And that hurts those commercial businesses, which also pay into our tax base. So we're at a really interesting point in our sort of financial condition where I think we need to do we need to make some changes. So we'll work on it, yes.
Are there any stores that you want to bring to Stanford?
I want a Starbucks in this town. I'm a coffee junkie. I love coffee. So cream and no sugar if you ever see me and you want to buy me a coffee, okay? I want a Starbucks. I want a Panera Bread. I want to eat. Obviously, sounds like I want to eat and drink coffee. You know, I'd like to see some more restaurants. I want to see some. It'd be great to have some clothing options. You know what I mean? I can't buy a suit shirt in this town. Is that incredible? Like Marshalls used to sell them, they don't anymore. So to buy a shirt that you'd wear with a tie, you can't buy it in Stanford. That's pretty amazing. New, you can't buy it new. So to me, that's a sure sign of economic trouble. Okay, so there's little things like that I picked up on since I moved here. Like, oh my gosh, I got to go to Biddeford to buy a suit shirt. Down in here?
What are your thoughts on Stanford's lesson for moving toward standard-based education?
My question.
We need another hour to tape, I think, if I'm going to answer that question. So I'm pretty well versed on that topic. I have also kids in this school system. The question was, what do I think about the proficiency-based learning, the sort of the shift to it in the school system? You know, I think publicly it's not up to me to sort of make that call. I think that for me, it's like taking a pill that you don't know the results of long term. Okay, so it's a different way of thinking that I'm not sure there's ever really been proven to work or not work. So I'm very cautious about it personally as a parent. I know that there's some really strong views on both sides. What do you think of it? Are you involved with that right now?
I feel I would like the same place. I'd rather have it for
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so the grades versus the 1, 2s, and 3s, and sometimes 4s. Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, it's whatever it's going to be an evolution. It's going to probably take some time to really get comfortable for people. You two guys.
They're relentless.
You.
Do you think
I'm sorry,
that-
what's your name?
Frankie?
Frankie? Okay.
Do you think we should eliminate some fast food restaurants like McDonald's and do we have too many of them?
I ate there last night, so I'm not sure I want to. I certainly don't want to be in the business elimination business. I want to be in the. I want to have so many other businesses here you don't realize there's 2 McDonald's. You know what I'm saying, or 2 Dunkin' Donuts. If you go into any town in southern New Hampshire or Massachusetts, or you go in every corner in Portland, there's 10 Dunkin' Donuts within a mile. I mean, they're everywhere. So, you know, the fact that we have 2 McDonald's and 2, let's say, Dunkin' Donuts, why that feels strange is because of the lack of other restaurants and choices you have, right? So I can't imagine replacing one of them with, Panera Bread is a good idea. I want to add the Panera Bread. I want to add the Starbucks, and I want to add the, TGI Fridays or whatever it is, right? So, I want you not to notice at this too. I see you. Very.
Okay, what are your thoughts and feelings about Stanford moving towards a oh my god, I just... Here, how do you feel about Stanford getting a new high school, and how do you think the town should either through taxes or a bond add to what the state is going to give us?
I'm for the new high school, for sure. I think it's something that, arriving here today, I really haven't spent a lot of time in this high school since I left. You realize it's unchanged pretty much. This room looks exactly the same, I think. So I'm an advocate for its creation. I think we need it to sort of move on. I've seen new high schools come into different communities, and I think it's almost always a good thing. The bond, the extra money, I think we need to favor a moderate approach towards what we need. So I don't know that we need to replicate or duplicate the Memorial Gym, for example. I was in there at the Veterans Day ceremony on Monday and thinking, this place is amazing, okay? We're really lucky to have a structure like that. The softball field the girls play on the other hand, looks terrible. You go there and you're like, okay, this, Witham Park, whatever it's called, Witham Park, that needs to be improved dramatically, and that's where I would advocate for some spending in South Sanford. So, I think that we need to, as a city, realize what we are, what we're not, and from a financial perspective, and really start saying, okay, what are the things we want to achieve by adding this new high school? I've traveled all around the state for different sporting events, and I can tell you that we're not comparable in some things, we're comparable in others. And I think the things we are comparable on, we should be able to utilize those, maybe to sort of peel back some of the spending. As far as how we pay for it, bond versus tax base, personally, I think it would be a bond approach where we borrow the money over a series of years and to lessen the tax base. But again, those are choices that the taxpayer is going to have to make. Yeah.
What do you hope is the legacy that you leave behind as the first elected mayor of Sanford?
Well, I think it's my mullet, first of all, which everybody seemed to enjoy. I think it's that I took a different perspective. I'm hoping that... Is a sink in here? What is that noise? I never knew that. Hey, how are you? Thought there was a leak. Legacy, I'd like to see a more focus on economic development. I think it's getting back to, if I can help bring businesses in the community and work with the Economic Growth Council and Chamber of Commerce to boost up our economic base. If I can leave with some jobs added to this community and our financial condition improved, and people have a more strong sense of community pride, then I think I've achieved something. don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's where I'm at. Jake?
What issues would you personally like to see resolved in our city?
Well, there's one thing I want to know. You know, we need to protect our assets. We need to stop, as a community, breaking into the Goodall Mansion. We need to stop stealing plaques off of statues. I mean, these are things that they're for all of us, right? You know, that Goodall Mansion's like a revolving door being broken into, and I think that that's a really, really bad thing for our community. It shows that we don't value our infrastructure. We don't value the things that create identity for us. So I think from my perspective, we need to do a better job placing value in those things. So, you know, by all means, you know, be supportive of what we have in Sanford. I mean, it really is. It's your town. It's my town, it's your town, it's our town, all those things, right? So we need to place value in those assets that we do have.
Do you think Sanford will ever turn out like Portland?
In what way?
Like, Portland's like huge, and well, Sanford's pretty big too, but like, do you think it'll turn out like Portland? I don't know.
I lived in Portland for a number of years. There's good and there's bad, right? So there's a reason I live here versus Portland. You know, Portland's congested. You don't know your neighbors. There's fairly high crime. You know, there's a quality of life that's there from an artistic perspective. There's a lot of outlets. There's great restaurants and shops and museums and all that. But there's also challenges in Portland that we don't have here. So would I like to see the economic base that Portland has? Sure. That would be awesome to have some of the retail and all that. But do I want to see some of the problems Portland has? No, I don't. So I think I'd like to retain somewhat of a small city atmosphere, but provide us with a few more amenities that Portland has from an artistic and quality of life point of view.
What are your thoughts on getting like new sports uniforms and stuff?
You football players?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's nice to have. You know, I think when I played basketball, we looked like the Globetrotters. You know, I probably wasn't pretty. You know, didn't necessarily change the way we play or the pride we felt on being a student athlete. You know, I think we need to place value in those things, but again, prioritize them. I'd rather have junior high soccer than have new uniforms. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's priorities and choices you have to make. Every choice has a consequence. So if you buy new uniforms for the football team, it means that money just came from somewhere else. So it's all one big bucket of money. And our ability to pour water into that bucket or money into that bucket is being diminished. Hold on, it's got to be too elegant. Go ahead.
What do you think needs to be changed to lower Sanford's negative reputation?
Like I said, you know, in my slide presentation, I think we create a lot of that. I think we talk negatively about Sanford. I know I have, you know, in the past. You know, I can certainly have a bad attitude towards Sanford. We have our challenges for sure. I think, first of all, we need to probably stop talking poorly about it. Secondly, we don't need to own the labels we have. When we hear about Sanford in a negative way, we don't need to accept that. I don't accept it anymore. I think Sanford has a lot going for it. So some of this is just going to be our perspectives on Sanford and our ability to say, you know what, we're cool because we're from Sanford, and it makes us special because we are from Sanford. That's a choice everybody here can make today. Say, I can either feel good about Sanford or I can feel negatively about Sanford, but you're not doing any good really by feeling negatively about Sanford. If you want to get engaged, you want to feel better about it, you want to start being more positive, I'm telling you, it feels good. So take it from me. So, Jake.
Okay.
You got a doozy?
I guess.
All right, give it to me.
When you play basketball,
Yeah.
do you have to wear a hairnet so it wouldn't like?
Yeah, I wore a hairnet, and Mr. Roberts passed out hairnets before every game. How'd you know that?
I was just asking because I saw the picture.
I'm kidding. Jake, sit down. During the basketball season, I actually got a flat top. You know what a flat top is, anybody?
Like
You
in,
remember Rocky IV? Anybody watched Rocky IV? No? Anyway, my hair was flat as a pancake on top. It was like a crew cut. My hair, quick grower. So I worked. I felt like I worked. Mr. Roberts arrived my sophomore year, and he had seen, everybody seen Hoosiers? Everybody seen that movie Hoosiers? Well, he had seen Hoosiers too many times. He thought we were going to win the state championship, and he was shot out of a cannon. We were going to win, and we didn't win that much. And I think he made us run a lot. I'm still afraid of Doug Roberts. So anyway, who else?
If we get a new we're getting a new high school, but like it's gonna be like super nice and have like turf and all that good stuff.
Is that a question, or are you just daydreaming?
It's a question.
I was just at Cape Elizabeth School to watch a soccer game, and I came over the hill, and there was this beautiful football field. There's turf and bleachers, and when you see something like that, you realize how depleted our facility is. It's, in a way, it's beautiful. It's got that bowl shape, which you can't replace. Really, it's a hard thing to replace. But the turf, the track, everything looks run down. So, the answer to your question, I don't know about turf. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've heard both ends of that spectrum. Whether turf's the way to go. You start really talking about the sports people. They know whether turf's the way to go. I don't. I'm a business guy, but it'll feel and look awesome, one way or another. You know what I mean? When we get this new school. Go ahead.
The new high school's supposed to be built by the time, so we could go to it by our senior year. Is there any way you can make sure that does happen? Because I know that people say that they could get it done by this certain time, and they ended up being like 2 years later.
Yeah, is there anything I could personally do? Probably not, to be honest. I mean, the new school is a very complex organization, really, of architects, of state people, of local officials, of all kinds of different school people are involved in that building process. Really, I think the holdup, honestly, has just been, I think we know what we want, and because the state hasn't built too many technical centers, they build high schools, they don't build technical centers, which are a much different kind of building, and the needs of those buildings are far different. So I think that's some part of the delays and why it takes so long. But I can tell you, where I lived outside of Nashua, New Hampshire, I saw the same architect put up a school in Nashua, New Hampshire, and it's pretty awesome. Okay, so it's in our future, and I'm telling you, it's going to feel and look great. Go ahead.
How do you feel about Stanford possibly getting a theme park?
Theme park. I like it because I think it would be a shot in the arm. I mean, the theme park's interesting because if we can attract and retain a theme park of the scale that they're talking about, this isn't Funtown, this is Disney World, minus a little. You know what I mean? So it would be a major style. And that I think that's public information. So they're not trying to duplicate Funtown or Rollo Beach. They're trying to build a significant theme park in South Sanford that would attract people from hundreds of miles. I like the idea because you could then conceivably build the identity of Sanford around that theme park, meaning when you go to Orlando, if you go to the Mall of America, for example, in Minneapolis, if you go to even Six Flags around the country, if you get this opportunity, the places around that also support that, right? So if you go to places that have hold large events, like I've gone to Lake Placid, New York a couple times in the last 2 years, and they had an Olympics there. The U.S., the World Olympics the Winter Olympics were held in Lake Placid, New York. Besides the Olympics place, the structures, the rest of the town is sort of dedicated to things of that nature. So it's a very athletic style organization and community. So we could conceivably build our community around the theme park theme. It would drive people to our downtown. You'd have restaurants and shops. You could have something in Springvale that would drive people through Sanford. You could do, the rope courses and things of that nature on the other side of town. So there are many opportunities that would create. Is it conceivable? I don't know. There's people looking at it, and I'm hopeful that we can get something down there. All right, hold on.
It's about the theme park.
What are your feelings on girls still closing this?
Well, my personal feelings is, it's certainly I'd like to have as many amenities in Sanford as we can. From a practical perspective, Goodall Hospital and their partners are private business, then they're going to eventually run their business for their financial condition. I can tell you that I think it's somewhat out of necessity. So there's fewer and fewer births occurring in Sanford, and that's driving the business elsewhere, if you will. So I wish it could stay. I think it's part of, again, it's part of the bigger economic problem we have here in a way. But I don't like to mix sort of city government with what I think the hospital should do as a private organization. It'd be like me telling Smitty's what to play on Saturday night, if you will. I mean, in a very low-level view of that, they're going to do in a way what's best for Smitty's, right? So, I think that we may have to change the way we operate to accommodate that change, but I understand why it needs to occur. Way in the back. Where I think they'll put it? I know they're looking at a number of spots. When they came in and did the initial studies and the initial tours, it was primarily focused on South Sanford. Years ago, I don't remember the exact year, they were considering building a casino, a gambling casino in Sanford. And they did a lot of studies on land that was in South Sanford. So I think they utilized some of that same studies and looked at some of those same properties that had already sort of been discussed as a spot for a possible casino. We voted the casino down by state referendum, 2002, yeah, something like that. So it was a number of years ago, but I don't have any details, honestly, on a theme park outside of that. I know it's being looked at, but they were looking at it, I know, in the southern part of the town.